He was once a father trusted without question. But then, he committed one of the most horrific family massacres in South Carolina's history. Timothy Jones Jr., born in 1981, heartlessly took the lives of his 5 biological children, Mara, Elias, Naughton, Gabriel, and Abigail inside their mobile home in Lexington County. At first, he claimed he acted out of panic after Naughton's death, leading him to kill the remaining children. But the court didn't believe him. He was sentenced to death in 2019 and is currently awaiting execution. His insanity defense was rejected because nothing could justify such a monstrous crime. Timothy Jones Jr.'s childhood was far from peaceful. Born in 1981, he was the result of a teenage relationship. His mother, Cindy Jones, was only 16 when she got pregnant. According to her husband, Cindy was an unstable and violent woman. When Timothy was still an infant, she reportedly gave him laxatives recklessly and even used a knife to cut his clothes. Though she was never formally diagnosed, many believed she suffered from a mental illness. When Timothy Jr. was just 18 months old, his mother left. His father, Timothy Sr., later remarried, but the trauma from those early years seemed to leave a lasting mark on the boy's mind. In 2001, at the age of 20, Timothy Jr. began spiraling into crime. He was arrested in Illinois on charges of cocaine possession, check fraud, and auto theft. He was sentenced to 7 years, but served only 2 before being released in 2003. In 2004, amid the bustle of Chicago, a romance began, one that would later lead to an unthinkable tragedy. At the time, 22-year-old Timothy Jones Jr. married 18-year-old Amber Kaiser, a young woman from Pennsylvania. They quickly started a family. 5 children were born across 3 different states: Mara in Pennsylvania, Elias and Naughton in Mississippi, and the youngest 2, Gabriel and Abigail, in South Carolina. Jones wasn't a failure by society's standards. In 2011, he earned a computer engineering degree from Mississippi State University and landed a job as an engineer at Intel in Columbia, South Carolina, with a salary close to $71,000 a year. But beneath the surface of that seemingly stable life, cracks were already forming. The couple lived in a rundown mobile home in Lexington County. Amber became a full-time stay-at-home mom, while Jones grew increasingly radical in his beliefs. During the trial, Amber testified that her husband held extreme conservative views. Women should be seen, not heard. Stay away from the kids. At one point, he even said he wanted an entire farm full of children. Jones was a devout fundamentalist Christian who often read the Bible and took notes on passages about corporal punishment. After his arrest, police seized several religious items, including the Bible he had used to justify his cruel actions. A quiet crack in what seemed like a stable marriage began to surface in May 2012. The couple separated for 2 weeks. When Timothy Jones returned home, he discovered that his wife, Amber, had been putting the kids to bed, then quietly slipping next door to see her 19-year-old lover. The affair was the final straw. Jones began therapy with Dr. April Hames, revealing that his unstable childhood had left him unable to trust anyone, including his own wife. He accused Amber of neglecting the children, which prompted South Carolina's Department of Social Services to open an investigation in 2011. The home was found to be in disarray, but without concrete evidence, the case was eventually closed. The marriage came to an end. Jones took the children to Mississippi to live with his parents. Amber was pregnant one last time with baby Abigail, and Jones demanded a paternity test. The results confirmed he was the biological father. In October 2013, the divorce was finalized. The court granted full custody to Timothy, while Amber was only allowed supervised visits under Jones's watch. Jones moved into a mobile home along a dirt road in Red Bank, on the outskirts of Lexington. The children saw their mother only occasionally, usually at a Chick-fil-A or through evening phone calls. On Sundays, Jones allowed them to attend a youth program at the Salvation Army. But behind the facade of a devoted father lay something much darker. During this time, Jones was reported twice for child abuse. In May 2014, one of the children said they were spanked and forced to do physical exercises as punishment. Since there were no visible bruises, investigators concluded that no laws had been broken. But just 2 weeks later, a far more serious allegation emerged. Jones was reportedly beating the children regularly, leaving bruises, starving them, and keeping them home from school to avoid detection. A social worker issued a clear warning. The father appears overwhelmed and no longer capable of maintaining a stable home. But all those red flags ... came far too late. On what seemed like an ordinary afternoon, Timothy Jones picked up his 3 oldest children from Saxgotha Elementary, then the 2 youngest from daycare. But instead of taking them home safely, he began acting strangely, forcing all 5 children out of the car in a reckless manner in a Walmart parking lot. That evening, at 7:12 p.m., Amber Jones's ex-wife called the house. She was only able to speak briefly with their son Naughton before the call abruptly ended. It may have been the last time anyone outside the family had contact with the children. According to his confession, Jones killed all 5 of his children that very night. He wrapped their bodies in black trash bags and poured bleach over them in an attempt to mask the smell of decomposition. He claimed he became enraged after Naughton damaged an electrical outlet and forced the boy to exercise until he collapsed from exhaustion. When the child lost consciousness and died, he went on to kill the remaining 4. A prison guard later testified that Jones admitted to strangling his eldest daughter simply because she had witnessed him kill her brother. He even used a belt to strangle them, saying their necks were too small for my hands. Jones didn't stop there. On September 1st, while his children's bodies were still in the trunk, he stopped for coffee at a Dunkin' Donuts. On September 3rd, he visited Walmart to purchase plastic bins, a saw, and muriatic acid tools in preparation for an even more gruesome act. His children had been marked absent from school for several days. By September 3rd, Amber contacted the police after being unable to reach the family. Yet it wasn't until September 9th, 6 days after the bodies were discovered, that authorities informed the public. No Amber Alert was ever issued, because Timothy Jones was still the children's legal guardian. A few days after the shocking murders, the horrifying truth began to emerge. The bodies of Timothy Jones's 5 biological children were found stuffed in black trash bags, dumped along a remote dirt road near Camden, Alabama. On Saturday, September 6, 2014, Jones was stopped by police at a traffic checkpoint in Mississippi. He was driving a Cadillac Escalade. Police immediately grew suspicious Jones was acting erratically, speaking incoherently, and had a disturbed look in his eyes. At first, they suspected he was intoxicated. But when they ran the South Carolina license plate, they discovered that this man was connected to the disappearance of 5 children. Upon searching the vehicle, officers found not only traces of blood and the stench of decomposition, but also materials for manufacturing drugs, handwritten notes detailing how to dismember bodies, and evidence that Jones was high on synthetic drugs. Under the pressure of interrogation, Jones confessed to the murders and led police and FBI agents to the remote site where he had dumped his children's bodies. Initially, he had planned to take the remains across the Mexican border, but the overwhelming stench of decomposition seemed to panic him, forcing him to abandon that plan and dispose of the bodies sooner. A police officer at the scene described it grimly. The vehicle reeked of death, a sickening mix of blood, bleach, and maggots. Forensic pathologist Dr. Janice Ross later confirmed the bodies were in an advanced state of decomposition after being left under the scorching sun for a week before discovery. Some remains had been torn apart by wild animals, others ravaged by maggots' gruesome details, that left the entire forensic team deeply shaken. Elias, the first child to be examined, was wrapped in 2 garbage bags. His body showed signs of a broken neck, missing neck tissue, and manual strangulation. Mara, the young girl, was found unclothed, with her left hand missing. Her body was covered in lesions and decay caused by insect activity. Gabriel had 2 parallel ligature marks on his neck, consistent with being strangled by a broad object likely a belt. Abigail, the youngest, showed the least decomposition. Her stomach was completely empty, indicating she hadn't eaten before her death. Naughton had a cut on his knee, likely caused by a saw or sharp object. He also showed signs of trauma to his femur and damage to his front teeth. All 5 children died from asphyxiation caused by strangulation. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, the exact time of death could not be determined. Dr. Ross offered a grim hypothesis. Only 1 child had food in their stomach. The others may have been starved, gradually growing weaker before they were killed. After his arrest, Jones was extradited back to South Carolina. At first, he remained silent, refusing to reveal his motives. But eventually, the court disclosed that Jones had long struggled with feelings of betrayal, paranoia, and chronic anxiety. In the end, he gave a chilling and irrational confession. "I was afraid my kids were going to kill me, chop me up, and feed me to the dogs." Jones was held under special suicide watch. But the haunting question remains: how could a seemingly ordinary father commit such an unthinkable crime? At trial, Timothy Jones pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. He claimed he wasn't in his right mind when he committed the murders, that his actions were the result of a brief psychotic break, driven by what he described as voices in his head. A recording of Jones's confession was played before the jury. His trembling voice echoed through the courtroom. "I wasn't forced to confess. They just promised to give my kids a proper burial." Jones gave a chilling account of that fateful night. He said that Naughton, his 6-year-old son, died after being forced to do squats and push-ups to the point of collapse, all as punishment for damaging an electrical outlet. When he found his son unresponsive, Jones didn't call the police. Instead, he claimed he listened to the voice in his head, and one by one, he strangled each of his remaining children in the bedroom of their mobile home on South Lake Drive in Lexington. His voice breaking, he said, "A normal person would have called the police. I didn't. I took the coward's way out. I listened to those goblin, demonic voices in my head, ... and they led me to this beautiful ending I'm facing now." After committing the murders, Jones placed the 5 bodies in the trunk of his car unwrapped, with no plastic bags. He later confessed that he had sat down and written out plans to dismember, boil, or burn his children's remains. But in the end, he admitted he didn't have the nerve to go through with it. "That wasn't something I planned ahead of time. It was more like a moment of, oh damn, what just happened?" In court, Jones sobbed uncontrollably as the recording played. He covered his face, trembling, but no one in the courtroom believed it was true remorse. The prosecution firmly argued Jones was fully aware, mentally competent, and capable of planning and carrying out his actions with clear intent. The court-appointed psychologist agreed Jones knew exactly what he was doing. In contrast, the defense attorneys and their medical experts claimed Jones was mentally ill and incapable of rational thought at the time of the killings. Demonic voices? Or a calculated plan disguised as madness? He wasn't insane, he was just furious. Those were the bitter words of Amber Jones, Timothy Jones's ex-wife, the mother who lost all 5 of her children in a single night. Amber testified that during their marriage, Timothy always appeared to be a good father, at least on the surface. But beneath that facade, his rage was constant and simmering. Tim got angry for no reason at all. You didn't have to do anything to set him off. He was just angry. Amber Jones told the court. Amber suspected that Timothy suffered from bipolar disorder, though he was never formally diagnosed. He didn't physically beat the children with belts or sticks, but instead forced them to do military-style exercises as punishment. Push-ups, squats running in place. It was the method of discipline he imposed on them every single day. Joy Lorick, the babysitter for the Jones family, described the home as a complete dump. Insects crawling everywhere, clothes and trash scattered across the floors, and dishes so caked with grease they hadn't been washed in over a week. One time, while she was feeding the children, one of them whispered, "Asterisk, asterisk, please don't tell Dad you gave us food. He might not feed us again. Asterisk, asterisk." Lorick also once discovered one of the kids with a black eye and immediately reported it to the Department of Social Services, DSS. Karen Leonhardt, a nurse at Saxe-Gotha Elementary School, also raised alarms. When the eldest daughter, Mara, came to school with head lice, Jones said he treated it with kerosene. When Leonhardt suggested using a hairdryer, Jones replied that he preferred using a heat gun instead. Terrified, Leonhardt contacted DSS. She recalled that teacher Amy Shearer had also reported that Naughton had bruises around his neck and jaw. It is believed that Jones had strangled her son and pinned him against a wall. At a gas station in Greenville, Alabama, cashier Linda Watkins recalled the terrible smell emanating from Jones' car. When she asked, Jones simply replied, "It's trash." Jones bought cigarettes and an energy drink, then asked for directions to a remote camping spot. Travis Presley, a prison officer, recalled the chilling confession. "I looked at my daughter. She was in shock. I don't know. Maybe she was trying to run away. I grabbed her and squeezed her so hard until she was blue." Another guard, Ben Boyd, recounted. He said the child was just playing with the socket and he strangled her. Then, while he was doing that, his daughter came into the room. On the 12th day of the trial, psychiatrist Richard Fearson testified. He stated that Jones was not schizophrenic, as the defense team claimed. Instead, he diagnosed Jones with a substance abuse disorder. Jones had used synthetic marijuana and may have been high on the night of the crime. Dr. Fearson also revealed that that night, Jones watched a rape scene in the movie American History X and then listened to the song Butterfly Kisses, an emotional song about fatherhood. If he was sober enough to understand the song, sober enough to see the scene, then he was sober enough to understand what he was about to do. Dr. Fearson. June 4, 2019. After a 15-day trial, the jury returns its verdict. Timothy Jones, guilty. No more doubt, no more excuses, no more talk of voices in the head or unclear intentions. Just crime. Clear, cold, undeniable. 9 days later, the jury unanimously found Timothy Jones worthy of the death penalty. A demonic voice could not absolve a father of strangling his own son. Timothy Jones became one of only 2 people sentenced to death in South Carolina in 2019. A lengthy trial, complex investigation, and an extensive legal team cost South Carolinians more than $647,000 in taxpayer money to bring Jones to justice. A high price, but is there enough to compensate for 5 young lives? In 2021, Jones appealed to the South Carolina Supreme Court, claiming the trial was unfair. His attorney argued that the verdict may have been influenced by emotion and bias. But on March 29, 2023, the court dismissed the appeal. The death sentence remained in place. Justice, once again, was affirmed. As of 2023, Timothy Jones is still awaiting his execution on death row. No wife, no children, no future. Only the memory of a night when darkness swallowed everything. This is not just a story about a serial killer committed by his own father. It is a warning, that unchecked rage, silence from bystanders, and ignoring warning signs can lead to irreversible tragedy. When justice comes late, it cannot bring back the dead, but it can prevent future deaths if we have the courage to listen sooner.